Hey, what's up guys, Rev here. So in a not so shocking turn of events, this morning ANYCOLOR and Nijisanji announced that they have terminated their contract with their talent Zaion LanZa, earning her an impressive parse for speedrunning a corporate VTubing career, as this termination came after only 1 month of VTuber related activities with the company. You may remember that back in February, Zaion was initially suspended by the company for an indefinite period, and while there was much speculation as to what exactly was going to happen next, we now have that answer with her termination announced this morning, and attached with it is a literal shopping list of grievances her management has cited as the reasons her contract was terminated. And as always with any recent video involving Nijisanji, I have to announce that yes, there is a risk of getting a false copyright strike for simply talking about them, because over the past 2 months or so, Nijisanji and ANYCOLOR have been striking down videos that cover their talents in a negative light. But of course, this is one that they made themselves and I'm just covering it, so hopefully it's fine. But as usual, if any member of ANYCOLOR or Nijisanji responsible for filing all these false strikes on other channels, if you're listening to this, my message is the same as my previous video. You can kiss my ass. Okay, now that that's out of the way, we can look at this announcement. So we're going to look through all of the things that they mentioned in this very lengthy announcement, and then we're going to look at the absolutely disgusting reaction social media has been having towards this announcement, and then we're going to conclude with just some final thoughts about what this means for Zaion and Nijisanji moving forward. So one interesting thing to compare this whole situation to is the graduation of Yugo earlier this year. Now, they graduated, and that announcement was really, it wasn't the details that people were upset about, it was the lack thereof. People thought that there was no clarity provided for the reasons why Yugo graduated, and basically, when this whole situation arose with Zaion, Nijisanji said, yes, you like details? Well, hold my beer, because you're going to get a whole host of them. So when listing all of their grievances, I mean, it literally reads like the Wikipedia page of a war criminal. Like, there is a lot here, and looking at all of them, I don't think there's a single thing on there that was like so bad in and of itself that was enough to warrant any sort of a punishment. But it's pretty obvious this is like a death by 1,000 cuts, where a lot of these grievances they list are reflective of insubordination and her ability or inability to work with management to fix some of their problems and complaints involving her VTubing activities. So let's begin by getting our magnifying glass to try to read this tiny fine print of an announcement, but it begins with the simple boilerplate language saying, thank you for always supporting Nijisanji and Nijisanji EN. We are sorry to announce the termination of our contract with EN Liver Zaion LanZa effective March 10th, 2023. Since her debut in December of 2022, Zaion LanZa has repeatedly infringed upon the contract and the rules livers must comply to during their streaming activities. In order for Zaion to reflect on her actions, we suspended her streaming activities in January of 2023 and all of her activities in February of 2023. During the suspensions, we have had several discussions with her, including training about compliance. However, her behavior and understanding of the rules did not improve. Therefore, we have concluded that it's difficult to continue working with Zaion as a Nijisanji EN Liver, and unfortunately, we had to make the decision to terminate her contract. And now, before we look into all the listed grievances, there is something very interesting to note in that part. She was actually suspended in January. She started in December. Some people were making the joke that like she couldn't even make it to February when she was publicly suspended. But no, she was actually like soft suspended back in January. She didn't even make it a month before she was suspended. So she's been on the hot seat for a long time. And like I said, going through the list of things that they had an issue with, there's plenty, right? But I think you have to compartmentalize all this and realize this has all happened in like 4 weeks. Like, one thing people point out is like, oh man, like you're really nitpicking with some of the language down here, but this all happened in a very short period of time. I think if this was spread out over like 2 years, it'd be viewed very differently. But let's read some of the things that Nijisanji listed as their grievances. So, using a copyrighted song in her stream without prior authorization, big deal. Revealing internal information that can potentially cause issues for stakeholders during her stream, very vague. Making statements that could lead to speculation or leaking of internal information using social media accounts that she personally operates during her activity suspension time, which is her other accounts, of course. Offensive remarks regarding discrimination and sexual assault. So the sexual assault remark is likely referring to probably the biggest thing that she was attacked for. Zaion had made a sexual assault joke about a video game character. The character had just been assaulted, and she basically made a joke saying that she can see why it would happen to her because the character was attractive. Edgy joke, of course, but I think if she wasn't a Nijisanji member and was an indie, I don't think people really would have had much of an uproar, but because she's a corporate VTuber, people really went after her and the company as a result. So I think that's why it blew up so much. But it goes on to say, several infringements of the rules pertaining to the use of games defined by ANYCOLOR, including intentional infringements and repeated false justifications given to ANYCOLOR regarding these infringements. Your guess of what that means is as good as mine. Expressing her will to perform streams using illegal games, also referred to as pirate games. Yes, she many different times talked about using emulators and pirated games, which would be like a big no-no for Nijisanji. Again, independent, probably who cares, but if she streamed, let's say, a Nintendo game, a pirated version of a Nintendo game, the entire company might lose the right to stream Nintendo games. That's why it is pretty important. Comments that can be considered offensive to the rights holder of a game during a stream, giving false information to other Nijisanji EN livers regarding the contents of her communications with ANYCOLOR, falsely claiming to have received permission from ANYCOLOR after a viewer commented on Zaion performing an action prohibited by the rules. That is multiple layers of open-ended, but okay. Falsely claiming to be sponsored by a brand during a stream. That was a joke about Raid Shadow Legends, by the way. That is one thing we do know. She was jokingly saying she was sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. That is something I have done in videos. It's a bit. Everyone knows Raid Shadow Legends is a joke, and a lot of people just pretend like they're sponsored by it or make like a quick joke about it. It really isn't that deep, and it wasn't that deep here. Giving likes to comments falling under defamation of Nijisanji livers and ANYCOLOR using social media accounts that she personally operates. Numerous other actions and comments infringing the contract and rules. So there's a lot there, and really you can split it into really 50-50. Half of it is like actual behaviors like jokes and things she said that violated their contract and rules, and the other half really is like insubordination, right? Like not doing what she's told by the company or misrepresenting her permissions and things she can or can't do on stream and games she can play, things like that. But as many people have pointed out, and I'm not going to get too deep into this because if I do, I have a feeling ANYCOLOR and Nijisanji will be drone striking my current location. Almost every single one of these things that are listed in this list of grievances here, you could apply that to other talents in their agency. They have done similar behaviors. But my counter to that, of course, is yes, that is a bit hypocritical, but also keep in mind, she did all of this in around a month. I think it's a little different when it's such a condensed period of activity containing so many things that had grounds. Now, if you think that's too far to terminate her based on some of these things, that's your opinion, but I don't think it's exactly surprising given the fact that a lot of the misconduct was followed with issues regarding her interactions and explanations with management after those issues arose. And it seemed like it was a repeated pattern. She had been suspended twice. So it became very clear that this just wasn't going to work out. And the difference between Yugo's graduation is that people will view them in a much more positive light. Not knowing the reason someone graduated or got terminated is for the better, because people can't make assumptions based on what they don't know. And you tend to go on the more lighter route of things, of thinking it was a more professional parting of ways. But with Zaion, it's like, here is all the things she does when she's under management, and beware other agencies. And it really just reflects upon the fact that I just don't think Zaion and the talent behind that character was really cut out for Nijisanji. And that's not really much of a complaint about her or her content. I just don't think she is someone who fits in with a lot of restrictions and guidelines. And it just wasn't a good fit for anyone. I do feel bad, though, for the artist responsible for making her model. It is a very beautiful model, and unfortunately it's kind of going to waste. You know it's not going to be used any further. Like, they're not going to have someone new step in and start using the model. They're obviously not going to do that. So all that hard work and a solid product that was made out of it is really going to waste. It's done at this point. And looking at this message, you can see the number of views, the immense level of quote retweets. This has been an absolute toxic nightmare. The replies and quote retweets are filled with some of the most vicious and angry responses ever, wishing all kinds of terrible things on Zaion, and many people claiming that this termination wasn't even enough. She deserved more punishment for everything she's done. And really, it's just showing how toxic many members within the related communities are, and not taking this announcement with any sort of, I don't know, class or understanding, like, yes, you guys, it didn't work out, move on. No, it's cheering and applauding for someone being fired, which, again, if you can have your personal disagreements with some of the things she's done, but I don't really think the appropriate response here is like throwing a party in the replies and quote retweets, which, yeah, it's not surprising that things have gotten really toxic. Anytime there's a major event involving Nijisanji, a subsection of their fans have wildly toxic reactions to this, including, yes, Zaion getting doxxed multiple times already, and obviously I'm not going to bring any attention to those things, but it is happening, and all I know is that if Nijisanji in ANYCOLOR wants to take action against anyone, that is the kind of person that they should be taking this action against. I don't care about your personal disagreements with things she's done, because at the end of the day, none of those things she did are even that bad. They might be edgy or a little bit offensive, but they are not warranting of being doxxed and having your personal information spread everywhere and your personal safety at risk over what is just a termination from a VTubing agency. It's not that deep, and it doesn't warrant any sort of response like that. And it's disgusting and really, really disappointing to see, but sadly, I'm not surprised. And another thing I want to mention before we wrap things up here is, don't talk about these events with the other generation members that she was a part of, or any members of Nijisanji, or probably any VTubers, honestly. Don't talk about this issue. Don't bring it into their streams. I feel like I should say that every time there is a termination or graduation like this, it puts them in a very awkward position. It's not in their best interest to talk about these things, even if they want to. So just leave them out of it and let this whole situation run its course. Now, what does this all mean for Zaion and the person behind that character moving forward? Well, they've already been hinting and making it pretty obvious that they are going to return to their independent career, and they are already appearing as they are gearing up to return to streaming with their former personality and VTuber model, and that's not very surprising. And like I said earlier, I don't think the corporate route is exactly the best fit for her, and I think returning to being an indie streamer is probably in her best interest. And yeah, there's really nothing else to talk about here. It seems like this is the complete final end of Zaion's very short run with Nijisanji, and again, no reason to resort to toxic and ridiculous behavior over a situation like this. It's not warranted. No one should be put into harm's way over something like this, and that's really all I have to say. So that's going to do it for this video. Please share all of your thoughts about this in the comment section down below. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time.